Welcome back to the Possibility Mom Live. In today's show, we're talking about Ashley Tisdale and on finding herself in motherhood. And the secret is you can't get back who you were. We're talking to Dr. Christine Lee on how to finally stop procrastinating and how the real secret to it is easier than you think. And we're going to have fun talking about things that I love, things that I'm thinking about modern motherhood and how you can pursue your dreams and be a great mom at the same time. Good morning. So I am coming to you from a little bit of a different location, and I didn't even look to see if I was fine in the background, but let me show you real quick. So we are on a holiday with my family at this incredible property that was built in 1885 and has so many historic things still here. And we're coming at you at a special time because we are traveling. And so normally I'm with you at noon Eastern to talk all things about motherhood, give you a nugget to go into the weekend with that is practical, to give you some hope and joy, and to hopefully give you some fun, because who doesn't love fun? Let's get into this beautiful Ashley Tisdale. So if you're familiar with Ashley, she was in the High School Musical. She played Sharpay, if I'm not mistaken, is her name. And she had a baby, and she had some really interesting things to share on what happens when you have a baby. And if I can pull this up for you, it is, I'm not going to pull it up. We're just not even going to attempt. I'm just going to read it. She says on her Instagram, slowly healing, slowly finding myself. I'm not trying to get back to who I was. There's no way. I'm on the road to discovering who I'm truly meant to be. And there's something in my daughter's eyes that tells me she knows exactly who that's going to be. And I find that line so interesting, that I'm not trying to get back who I was. There's no way. And let me know in the comments, wherever you're watching this, if you can understand what Ashley is saying here. This feeling of, do you want to feel like your old self? I know this is something that when I had my first child, I said many times, oh my gosh, I said many times, I just want to feel like my old self again. If I can fit into those jeans, I'll feel like my old self. If I can have a cup of coffee hot, while it's still hot, I'll feel like my old self. And I think it's a natural feeling, of course, because you have nothing else to compare to, right? Like there is really, truly no transformation, I personally argue, on earth, and let me know if you agree with me, like becoming a mother. You can do all the reading, you can do all the studying, and I argue, honestly, even if you worked in a daycare or you worked in a school, nothing really prepares you for having your own child and all of the mental, physical, emotional, the dynamic it does to you and your own mother, the dynamic it does to you and your spouse. There's just really nothing like it, in my humble opinion. And so I agree with Ashley that we're not trying to find ourselves again or get back to my old self. Well, if I fit into my jeans, I'll be fine. Like, no, I believe that it actually is embracing a brand new person, embracing a brand new identity, and designing that identity, if I may be so bold. And here's the thing that reminds me of what we talked about on the Possibility Mom Live episode 2 with my mindset coach, Erin Ingold. Our circumstances, everybody listen, if you're drinking coffee, if you're wrangling kids, if you're doing something else, come back to me for just 20 seconds. Our circumstances are not what dictates our interior peace. It's our thoughts are what dictate our interior peace. And this might be challenging. You might not agree with me. You might think that's a load of baloney, but guess what? It's neuroscience. It is simply just the truth. And why is it true? Because people like Viktor Frankl, I think it's Dr. Viktor Frankl. He he is a survivor of Auschwitz, and he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning, where as a psychotherapist, if I'm not mistaken, he observed what kept people going in the most horrific of places, where the most just horrific of atrocities were being committed to human beings. He observed how people held on to hope, and the people who held on to hope are the people who made it. And where does hope come from? Where does hope come from? It's a choice. And where does that choice begin with and end with when you think about it? Our minds. We get to choose how we think and how we respond to every single situation that we are given, including motherhood. And don't you know that we're on vacation, which has been all kinds of fun, but, also is all kinds of situations. People don't have all the things that, including this one over here, that maybe they're used to or that they like to have. And so the ability to recognize that it's our circumstance, it's not our circumstances, excuse me. It is not our circumstances that dictate our interior peace. And so if in motherhood you're trying to find yourself again or get back to this old sense of self, I want to argue that actually, let's just find and design and craft a new version of you. And all of that begins with our thoughts. This leads me to this week's featured possibility mom, a very, very dear past coaching client of mine who I got to meet while I was here in the Atlanta, Georgia area. Lydia Borja is a mom of 5 small children. She is a homeschooling mother, and she has an incredible passion for women's health and ensuring there is a holistic approach to women's health. And I'm so excited to share her story with you. In 5, 4, 3, 2, almost one. Are you ready for it? In 5, 4, 3, 2, almost 1.
Lydia Borja, and I have 5 kids, ages 11 down to 3. Chasing my dreams within motherhood is actually such a gift. I did not think that it was possible until just the past few years, when I have been inspired by people like Lisa and Lydia and others who have just shown women everywhere that babies and dreams go together, and that God puts dreams on your heart for a reason, and that we have a feminine genius, and this is a gift from God to share with the world. I'm so passionate about fertility awareness and women's health, holistic health, and it's really important for women to care for ourselves, for our whole person, our body, our mind, and our soul, because we are worthy of that care, because we cannot serve our children, we cannot serve our families, we cannot fulfill the mission that God has given us without caring for ourselves. And so understanding our fertility and our hormones and all of what makes us uniquely feminine is a huge part of actual genuine self-care, I believe. So the woman who is kind of just so busy taking care of others and pouring herself into others that she thinks that her own health is not a priority, I would definitely tell her, first of all, that I've been there and that I've seen that it doesn't work. You cannot live the life God calls you to while ignoring your own needs, especially in the life of a mom. We have to be at our best in order to serve the ones that God has given us. And sometimes God allows us to have health problems that don't just go away right away, but that doesn't mean that we can't work to pursue health, to take care of ourselves daily, to even go to extreme measures, to even spend money on ourselves. I know that that's something that moms don't always like to do, but I'm a big proponent of taking the necessary steps, even extraordinary steps, to achieve the health that we need to do our daily task and to fulfill our dreams.
I love this woman. And I started working with her when she was launching an online course. And I remember she really challenged me when we were working on building her course to help women understand their hormones, their fertility in a natural way. I remember feeling very challenged because I was like, I am still kind of scraping my health out of the bottom of a barrel. Just to go on a very personal aside for a moment and let me know if you can relate in the comments below. I after baby number 5, I want to say I went through a period of like, health is not a priority. And I kind of just shoved it down to like, priority number 7. I do an exercise in my signature time management program, Conquer Your Calendar, where I have you rank your priorities. And I remember one of the first drafts of my book that was written in, several years ago now, like 2017, I want to say I was writing the book. I remember listing my own and putting it all the way down at literally priority number 7. And then as I did a second draft, as I did a third draft, I remember I was like, stop the presses. So several months had gone by and whatnot. I was like, stop the presses. I cannot responsibly release something with my name on it that has my health so low down on the priority list. And, when Lydia talks about about sometimes you have to take extreme measures, I think it's necessary, that it is necessary that we take care of ourselves. This kind of relates back to the Ashley thing. It might look different. Exercise, before kids might have been you going to a physical gym many times. Exercise before kids might have looked like, very uninterrupted, silent, like practice. Whereas maybe exercise after kids has to become a bit more flexible, has to become a bit more manageable, perhaps has to be done in bite-sized pieces. Maybe someone needs to come to your house, or maybe you do need to ensure that you have babysitting, or you go to a gym that has childcare at it. The possibilities are endless, truly, if we can just look for them. When we put a mindset that is growth oriented around, well, how can I focus on my health? What would it look like for me right now to take an extraordinary measure? What would that look like? And begin to ask those questions and seek those answers. All right, we're going to pause right here for a brief mention of something super fun that I've got coming up, which is my personal branding 5-day free challenge. If you don't think it's possible to run a business because you are a busy mom, if you don't think that's cute, I didn't realize that had an audio on the back of it. That was cute and unexpected. But if you don't think it's possible to run a business because you're a busy mom, if you don't think it's possible to grow a business and scale a business that's truly based on your life, your experiences, I want to challenge you to come and join me for my personal branding 5-day free challenge. It starts next Monday, April 12th, and you can register it by clicking on that link below in the description. So go ahead. If you're having coffee, if you're half asleep still, if you're trying to keep your kids quiet while you're watching me, just go and click right now in the description and have it open. And then you can go back and register for my free branding challenge that hundreds of women have participated in and have had so much fun and made progress on their ideal businesses, which then, of course, contribute to their family's financial freedom. We're going to do a fun thing before I bring on my special guest, who I cannot wait for you all to I cannot wait for you to meet Dr. Christine Lee. But before we bring on Dr. Christine Lee, it's time for a morning edition of the Possibility Mom Live Selfie Challenge. So I'm going to hold my coffee. And if you want to take a selfie with me, every week I draw for some fun prizes from Beauty Counter. And so just all you got to do, grab your phone to grab a prize, and we're going to snap a quick selfie anytime during this show. I'm going to hold my phone up hold my coffee up so you can take a shot in 3, 2, and 1. Possibility Mom Selfie Challenge morning edition. It is morning. I am still in morning Fog. And it's interesting the things that happen when we are tired. Let me know in the comments if you feel the same way, that when you are tired, your thoughts are impacted perhaps a lot more negatively, perhaps a lot more cynically. And I know I am prone to procrastination, the P word, if you will. The P word, because this is something in my life that I am actively rewriting. This is something in my life that I have struggled with for many years and has become the cause, to be honest, of many stressful situations that when I finally go and sit down to do the thing, I'm like, this only took like literally less than 5 minutes. Why did I let that become such a piece of drama? I am delighted to bring to the Possibility Mom Live someone that I respect and admire, Dr. Christine Lee at Procrastination Coach. Welcome to the show, Dr. Christine. Hi.
Hi, good morning, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me here, and good morning. Good morning.
You look so beautiful.
Thank you. You too. Thank you so much.
It's early. Although, you know what? I should rewrite that too, because what we're doing right now? We're not procrastinating. We're not procrastinating. We're doing fun things first thing in the morning.
It's a beautiful day, beautiful morning to be beautiful and do wonderful things. Good morning, everyone who's listening. Welcome.
Who
Welcome.
might
Welcome.
not be familiar with you and your beautiful work, share with us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Thank you so much. I am Dr. Christine Lee. I am trained as a clinical psychologist licensed in New York. I've been doing that work for 20 years and have learned so much, as you can imagine, from working with clients and couples and families and doing my work on myself as well. And part of that work, that personal journey of being a therapist and just growing up, was realizing and recognizing that I had a very severe procrastination problem. This was many years ago that I realized that as part of a job that I had. I was a staff member at a counseling service in New York City for a major university. And someone asked for a staff member to design a procrastination workshop. And I volunteered for that, but didn't really realize that I was the person who needed the workshop the most. And that was the beginning of this story that has been more than a decade old, of my trying to spread the word that procrastination is not something that you're born with. It's not something that you have to stick with. And Lisa, what you said a few minutes ago, that your circumstances do not dictate your peace, really, we think so alike about these matters, that a shift in a thought can be a shift in your life. It could shift your day to day. It could shift your entire trajectory. So I've been online for the past roughly 10 years doing this work, inch by inch, person by person, and really enjoying myself, really enjoying putting together more and more techniques for not only productivity and procrastination beating, but also just wellness and self-development and being who you need to be to live happily and to live well. So health is in there, as you've mentioned, of course. Time management is in there. Prioritization, which you also mentioned. I think you live this work, and I think I do as well. And when you put your mind into your own life, typically what happens is you can generate a lot more joy. You can generate a lot more time, which seems like it's always flying past us. But when you're in the present moment, that's where the power is. That's where the joy is. That's where the fun is. That's where the children bring us back to. No matter how busy you are, your child needs something, your child craves something, including your attention. You get drawn back, and it's a beautiful thing, that connection between people, that when we procrastinate, we can really forget and we can really deprive ourselves of. So that's why this work is important to me, because I like people being happy. I like people enjoying themselves. And I know that I have at least one solution for people who are feeling like they're struggling with time management and that joy, like it's stuck inside somewhere. I just really find joy in being able to help people to bring it back out.
That's so beautiful. So, and you kind of mentioned it, but I'm going to have you articulate it one more time for the people in the back who can't hear. The root of procrastination, if you were to say it in, one sentence, what would you say the root of procrastination, the root cause of procrastination is?
In my experience, procrastination is always trace backable to a fear. And oftentimes, because procrastinators tend to become secretive because they've got a stockpile of things that they're late on, their fears about how other people are going to view them. So judgment, criticism, fear of not being competent, fear of not coming across as being perfect. So that's a very complicated web of fears too. Those are the heavier fears, I think, because who are we going to talk those fears about with? How are we going to discharge those? How are we going to separate ourselves from those really private, really deep, oftentimes really long-standing fears? Maybe fears from high school when your family of origin or your school community of origin inserted these kind of high intensity pressure vibes into your life. And we all have been there in one way or the other. We have faced a situation where we felt that the expectations were too high for us to reach, were too pressured, were too meaningful, were too weighty, or we just cared so much. Maybe it wasn't from the outside, but it was from the inside out that we wanted to do really well, but it overwhelmed our ability in the moment to cope. I'm just giving you props, Lisa, right now, showing up from vacation and doing your business. And that at any moment, understandably, we could feel like I'm throwing in the towel. This is too much for me. Why did I start this? Where is this going anyway? Oftentimes, it's much easier to calculate the costs and the losses and the sacrifices than it is to see what is ahead for us. The expansion, the fun, the new learning, the new friends that you'll meet, the new personality, the new part of you that will open up if you just go a few steps more. And that's why I think coaching is so important. That's why self-development, investing in yourself is so important, because we don't want to make the mistake of leaving that rich self stuff behind because things are busy, because things are always going to be busy. That's like maybe a wake up call or just a realization that we should all accept. I think that we can't necessarily change busy, but we can change how we show up, and we can change our feelings and attitude about that so that it all works more seamlessly. And it really can. It works more seamlessly more often. That's all you're going for. You're going for like 1%, 2% more often, that you show up with the right mindset at the right time with the right part of you. That's all we're going for. No more perfectionism. We don't need that anymore. That's the stuff that's crushing. And so perfectionism is another answer to your question. The fears of this, and this, and then the expectation that we have to be perfect all the time. That's a killer to your productivity. That's a killer to your dreams.
No fun at all.
And no fun. Yes.
Great comment here from Sunny Day. I'm in my late 40s, but still feel very insecure in my own abilities. So, Dr. Christine, what do we do instead? And the thing that I heard you say was about fear, and I talk about this quite a bit in my book. And this is something that I talk about in The Possibility Mom. It took me 3 deadlines to get my book finished. And it's not because I'm a slow writer. It was because I was petrified of doing it wrong. I was petrified of getting my book out there and then people tearing it to shreds. I was using perfectionism as a shield, to quote James Wedmore, as a shield for being judged. And as soon as I had that realization, I was like, no more, no more, like no more. I will not let fear, hold me back anymore. How do we begin to make friends with fear, and in very small ways in our lives? Because it shows up in all kinds of ways. It can show up in trying a new recipe when you're having friends over for dinner. It can show up in, making a new friend, saying hello to somebody, at church or at school that you've never said hello to. Like, it could show up in any way. How do we become more friendly with fear and embrace it as something actually necessary instead of something to dread?
That's a wonderful question. I love all of your questions. I would say, as a book author myself, that I'll start there, that I believe, having gone through it once, that every book author has had to come to that moment where they have to let go of that terror. And when you're an author, it does feel a little bit terrifying to release this piece of work. It feels like it's going to be permanent. It does feel like it's a child, but it's a child that you're releasing into the world at age 1 or 2 instead of age 18 or 19. So it is this crazy zone of emotions and unseen fears, and just saying there's more to be done. There's more to be done. That just always wanting to push that limit and do our good work for our name that is going to be attached to the book. And so the way that I think authors do is to say, enough already. This is the line. I cannot stay on this side of the line any longer. Let me move forward with what I have. And I do believe that is why we have editors. That's why we have deadlines. But that's also why we have that inner coach of ours, that none of us are without a coach, because we have that part of ourselves that does know there's more to life than what we've allowed ourselves in the moment. And to Sunny Day, who very courageously said, I'm in my late 40s and feel insecure about my abilities. I think verbalizing what we're fearing is step number 1. So congratulations, Sunny Day, for making it here, following Lisa, connecting the people she's bringing on to your own life, because we borrow courage from people as well. We don't always have to say, oh, it has to be, as a new book author, in me, I have to exactly know what I'm doing, and I have to have the exact amount of courage to push this out myself. It doesn't work that way. We need a team oftentimes. And Sunny, just find the people who know you and your talents. And then the second major step would be to put a limit to the part of you that is tearing yourself apart and saying repeatedly, you're not good enough. This is not good enough. It's not the right time. We're not in the right zone. We don't have enough cash. Whatever the story is, catch the story and do look at those stories as stories, because sometimes when we're saying these things to ourselves, we think of them as facts. I know Lisa promoted this live today as being able to learn how to tell stories from fact. Such an important self-development skill, because we can keep generating these stories. Our mind is good at that. We're good at keeping ourselves safe, keeping ourselves small, because guess what? We are safe when we're small, but we don't have that much fun. And guess what? When you emerge, when you become that butterfly and you take those risks, you risk some things, but you gain so much. And when you're out, you're much stronger too, so that you can actually withstand any actual safety issues that you've generated. Because what happens? You get a little more public, more people know your name. You have a book that's published. It's not so bad. It's really not so terrible. We've all survived. And you will too, Sunny. I promise. You will survive whatever you're fearing. So write down your fears, write down new stories that you're going to tell yourself, and then try one more thing. Just one more inch out of the privacy space, the safe space, and know again that you can just expand the safe space. We're not abandoning our need for safety. We're just expanding our comfort zones.
So I can hear the people. I can hear you in the back. The people who are saying to themselves, yeah, okay, I can see how this would work in small things where maybe the stakes aren't so high. But what about when, let's just say there's a financial thing at play, or where it really is a decision that will impact your family, your financial footing. What do we do with that? Right? What do you do? Like, for example, deciding to move, investing in your business, for example, deciding to do something daring that will cost you money, or even something like investing in a holiday, a vacation, where there might be some loss if it doesn't work out or what have you. What do we do when we're clearly procrastinating something that could be huge for us, huge for our family, but where we do see that there is potentially significant loss, where maybe we won't survive? If I can use that language, what would you say to somebody who said, well, what about the stuff where I might not survive because the stakes are actually quite high?
Okay. I, again, love your question. They're so creative. This one is a little scary because, yeah, there are real dollars on the line. Yeah, this is really how we're choosing to use our time. Oftentimes, time is even more valuable than the money, right? And so both are involved. And sometimes judgment is involved as a third factor. So we've got money, we've got time, and judgment that we're risking. But I would say my first reaction to this question is that you wouldn't be on the cusp of making this decision if it wasn't somewhat close to what you actually needed and what you actually were desiring for your particular life circumstances. And my second response is that you and I have been coached by some wonderful people. And I think at this point in my coaching journey as a coach and as a coached person, I know that any money loss is money that I can build back up.
Mm.
So I no longer fear the money loss. And I think that's an important, it sounds like it's unrealistic, but in order to gain in all the different realms, money, time, perspective, courage, we need to be able to face the fear as if it is not a factor.
Mm.
And I think all of us can look back in our own lives and recall a time when we did something where there really was a big thing at stake and we took that leap and we survived. We ended up having a big story to tell. We ended up having a big lesson that informed us for the rest of our lives. So that means, relationship breakups. That means going to a different state to go to school. All of those things that felt terrifying to you in life, you survived. And I think if you really feel it, the gut has to be on board. That's the third point. You have to make sure that when you are taking risks like that, that there's something that feels like a fit for you. There's something that feels like you can really occupy that as the manager of this project. You're the boss. And if you don't feel that comfortable yet, there are resources to help you get comfortable, to
Mm.
go through the data to see, are we really going to lose money or are we just terrified of that?
Yeah.
That's the other thing, is kind of to maybe get a finer view of what's going on with the money so it's not so scary, so that maybe you have alternate plans, so that you have, my neighbor has triplets, and I was in the car with her one day and I could see her brain calculating, if this didn't work out for her daughter, what would they do next? And I thought, how do you do that so quickly? And she said, if you're the mother of triplets, there's always a plan B. There's got to be a plan B. And she could do that just instinctively and really quickly. And so instead of terrifying yourself of something big that you are interested in doing, figure out how to make it not terrifying and
Mm.
know that your life is abundant, that you have strength, but you have to back yourself up. You have to show up. That's the key point.
That's a really great place to wrap up this conversation, where how can you make the thing that you might be afraid of? So to Sunny, to anyone else watching who deals with procrastination, how can you make the thing that you're afraid of? So we've identified that fear and perfectionism can be the root cause of procrastination. How can you make the thing that you are afraid of not so scary? And when I hear that, I hear two things. Number one, or I come to mind two things. What is the mindset you're bringing to it? So literally, like, just how are you thinking about it? If you're thinking negatively about it, well, guess what? Your reticular activator is only going to look for more negative. But then what you mentioned, I think, is really helpful. What is the skill set you're bringing to it? And maybe you don't have skills in that area. For example, tax season, everyone's favorite. I'm growing in my ability to manage all of my financial documents. And every single year I say next year will be the year that I'm not scrambling and finding every shoebox. You know what I mean? So instead of, letting the fear be, oh no, I'm going to have to go through this whole exercise again of finding all the documents. Maybe finally you bring in someone else who is really good at this, whether it's a friend or a professional. And when you think about it, there are professionals who are more experienced than you in a multitude, in every arena, really, I'm sure. And so to bring in someone who potentially has more skills, or where you can take a course where you can up-level that skill to reduce the fear, I think is huge. Okay, my final question for you, I could talk to you all day long, but my final question for you is, in your more recent history, so maybe the last 6 months, what's been an experience for you personally that you're comfortable sharing with us where you had that fear, but then you overcame it, and then what did you gain?
That's so easy because I launched a podcast in January, and that had an entirely different set of emotional terrors to it. This was do you like your own voice? Who's going to listen? How am I going to keep up with this? Is this going to be worth it? It was just a cascade of fears this time. It wasn't just the one fear of the book content. It was all the fears, the endurance, the voice, the personality, who's going to sign up to be a guest, these kinds of things. And they all came at once. But as you know, Lisa, from being a host, that these kinds of things end up just being pure joy. That was the big surprise for me. It was not how much work was required of any podcast host, because there is a lot of work required. But I was just so pleasantly surprised by how beautiful an experience it is to be able to welcome friends and mentors and people who could pass their message on to other people through my show onto my show. It's just 100% joy at this point. So you got to set the deadline. You got to do the big things, because your life was meant to be a big journey, a big experience, and know that you can have what you're dreaming of, because that dream wouldn't be there if you weren't ready for it. So thanks for that.
So much. You can grab anywhere you love to buy books. Dr. Christine Lee's book, 5-minute self-discipline exercises. Stay motivated, cultivate good habits, and achieve your goals. And you can learn about her on her website. We have linked it in the description, and go download or subscribe to her podcast, wherever you love to listen to podcasts. I am a guest on it. What episode am I? Do you remember what number?
It's Make Time for Success, and I think you're episode 5, but that is, you're definitely one of the first guests. I want to say episode 5. So definitely one of the first 7. Check out the episode. Lisa's wonderful as usual. And I would love it if you guys would follow me and the podcast. It's such a heart project at this point.
I love it so much. Thank you so much for all you're doing to help us recovering perfectionists stop procrastinating.
Stop it. Enjoy, everyone. Have fun. Remember, when you stop it, you have fun.
Exactly. Oh my word. Thank you, Dr. Christine Lee. Okay, who wants to have some more fun? Fun for fun. Hang on. Is my husband there? There we go. Fun for fun. Who wants to have some more fun? I do. Because if I can just take a moment to personally reflect, we've done a lot. We've done a lot in the last year, which didn't all work out. I've told the story on my conference that you can still watch the replay of, where we had a pretty epic financial challenge when we moved here from Toronto, Canada to Southwest Florida. And I remember asking myself the question, like, will we survive this? Will we survive this? And now we're a year and a half out of having a kind of not so fun financial challenge. And we did survive it. And I would say not only did we survive it, but I would not be the woman I am today. I would not be the coach I am today. I would not be the businesswoman I am today without that experience. And I say that really sincerely. Was it terrible? Was it terrible to make a $50,000 mistake on our house closing costs and have to scramble to find that money and feel absolutely mindset gut wrenched, wrung out to dry? Was that fun? No, not so much. It was not so much fun. But the person I became as a result of that experience, the person that I grew into, the relationship that I now have with money, the relationship I now have with procrastination, even, all of those things had to evolve, grow up, and become a version of myself that I like a whole lot better, and a version of myself that has allowed me to pursue my dreams and do it with 8 kids tagging along. And so I really just want to encourage anyone who is feeling like you have a repeated action of procrastination, that it doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to live in constant fear or constant dread, that you don't have to avoid things in your life. You don't have to. It's not necessary. And in fact, you can actually experience great freedom. And the things that often we procrastinate on, this is the thing. This is why facts and stories are so important. The stories that we're telling ourselves about the thing are most of the time not true. And we kind of build up these big dramatic things. And then when it comes time to actually see the reality, like what is a fact, it's actually not that bad. And if we just kind of take this approach of, I'm going to do it anyway because I'm afraid, I'm going to move forward, I'm going to up level my mindset, I'm going to up level my skill set, and I'm going to move forward, what is on the other side of all of that is pretty amazing. And what could be unlocked if we just got on that other side of fear? I think this brings me to a natural transition to a quote I want to share with you in this week's Stuff I Like. Now, this is a quote that I stumbled upon at some point in the last few years, and I remember thinking, I don't like I couldn't remember where I read it, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is so important. And it's this here: to be in your children's memories tomorrow, you have to be in their lives today. To be in your children's memories tomorrow, you have to be in their lives today. And it sounds so simple, but is that not so true? I just wrapped this cell phone challenge that was so interesting to run. And in fact, because it was so popular and clearly hit a nerve with a lot of people, I will very likely make it something that can be done again and again. And the one big thing that's come up in that challenge is how they feel so much more present to their families because their phone isn't such a distraction. And, I go on in that Instagram post. If you want to check it out later, it's at Lisa Canning on Instagram. Feel free to come over and join the party there. I talk about how if you don't like the fact that you are not around your children, or you don't like the fact that you are distracted by your phone, or whatever aspect of your behavior, you're a yeller, you're a perfectionist, you're demanding perfection of your kids, whatever it is, you have the opportunity to change it. Because when we understand that our circumstances do not dictate our interior peace, we can become to get skilled then at understanding, what am I bringing to this situation? What energy am I bringing? What attitude am I bringing? What mindset am I bringing? And we can change it, because everything begins with you. Only you have the ability to say yes or to say no. Even, to just bring my Catholic lens, we're wrapping up the Easter octave. We celebrate Easter as Catholics for a full, I never know if it's actually 8 days, or is it more than 8 days? I never know. But anyway, so that's why I always refer to it as the Easter octave. It's a season of deep rejoicing. We've come out of this period of Lent. When you look at Mary, the mother of Jesus, she had to say yes. She had to say yes. She had to choose. You get to choose too. And you can choose joy. You can choose hope. You can choose and design the kind of woman you want to be. You. The choice begins with you. I'm so excited to be back next week with the beautiful Jill Simons, creative director of the lifestyle brand Pink Salt Riot. And we're going to be talking about the balancing act of building an empire. And I naturally go to business. I love talking about business. I love coaching. I have found that it's been an incredible fulfilling experience for me to help women not only learn about their own abilities and what brings them joy, what brings them life, but also help them make a lot of money. But when we have a mindset that might limit us, when we procrastinate, like we were talking about with Dr. Christine Lee, when we might bring to whatever it is that we do in life with this mindset, potentially, like I was talking about in the Ashley Tisdale quote, of trying to find my old self, or trying to do business in an old way, or trying to do life, the way I used to prior to kids, we're really limiting our true potential. And so I'm excited to talk with Jill next week on what it looks like to balance life with a bunch of kids and build an empire. As always, I am grateful for you. Thank you so much, Juliana, for your comment. Wow, what a powerful quote. Sometimes I take for granted my influence in my kiddo's life. What a blessing it is to be reminded. Absolutely. And this is why, like Dr. Christine said, the work of personal development never ends. Like Abigail says here, I am aiming to find the best version of myself. I don't want to go back to my old self. And for sure, moving forward, I don't want to be stuck in where I am now. And so I can be somewhere else a few months away from now. Everybody, I'm grateful for you. I am grateful for you spending a little bit of time with me. I will be back next week at the regular time, noon Eastern. And if you can think of a mom in your life who might appreciate this show, feel free to tag them on Facebook or send them the link by hitting the share button on YouTube. Everybody, have an amazing day, and we will see you next week on the Possibility Mom Live.